Hunter Biden has officially been indicted on 3 federal charges. These indictments all stem from false statements he allegedly gave regarding the purchase of a firearm in October of 2018. Here's everything you need to know about the charges, where President Joe Biden stands, and what this means for the youngest Biden son going forward. This is Hunter Biden's federal charges explained. Hunter Biden has been charged with 1 count of possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user of a controlled substance. According to the U.S. Supreme Court, federal law prohibits the possession of a firearm or ammunition by any person who is, quote, an unlawful user of or addicted to any controlled substance. Hunter Biden has had a very public struggle with substance abuse, and purchasing a gun during the course of his addiction would have been federally illegal. With this, the 2 additional charges allege he made false statements in the course of purchasing said gun. Prosecutors say Hunter Biden knowingly made a false statement on the form used in the purchase of the gun. On the form, he had allegedly stated that he was not an unlawful user of controlled substances at the time. This accuses him of knowingly purchasing and possessing a Colt Cobra revolver in October 2018, while also, quote, knowing he was an unlawful user of and addicted to controlled substances. The firearm possession charge carries a maximum potential sentence of 10 years in prison, while the 2 false statement charges carry maximum potential sentences of 5 years and 10 years in prison. This indictment is the latest installment of a years-long investigation for prosecutors who have been probing Hunter's personal life and business dealings.
And lastly, we plan on having a hearing in September that will kind of evaluate some of the things that we believe have happened from the Biden family that are in violation with our laws.
Previously, Hunter Biden was working with prosecutors on a plea deal. He had agreed to plead guilty to 2 counts of willful failure to pay federal income tax, an entirely different incident, and the deal would have helped him avoid prosecution for the firearms charge. However, that deal fell apart under questioning by U.S. District Judge Mary Ellen Noreika at a hearing in July. This indictment was brought up just weeks after the plea deal had fallen through, and it puts his criminal proceedings back on track. At the same time, his father, President Joe Biden, faces an impeachment inquiry by House Republicans, led by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Some legal experts note that the charges that were brought against Hunter Biden are rarely prosecuted.
When people are addressing the gun charge, please remember the following 3 or 4 things. First, this event happened in 2018. Law enforcement showed up at the time. They had the paperwork at the time, and no one thought that there was a serious enough event to charge him then. The U.S. Attorney's Office have investigated this and other things no less than 2 or 3 years. They decided not to bring this charge. And then they decided that the only appropriate charge on the gun was not, by the way, for him to plead guilty, but for him to have a charge that would be diverted, in which he would never have to take a plea, because they understood the following number 2 point. This office has never brought a charge like this against anybody. When they are bringing this charge, it's either because somebody has had the gun in the commission of a crime, they have bought multiple guns, they are a straw purchaser for somebody else, or they're a felon in possession.
Former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti wrote on X, "It is very unlikely that Hunter Biden would be charged with any of these crimes if his last name wasn't Biden." He added, "Charges for possessing a firearm while under the influence of narcotics are rarely brought. False statement charges in this context are also rare." Other legal experts note that Hunter Biden could raise Second Amendment challenges to the charges, in a potentially surprising crossover in traditional party lines on gun laws. Meanwhile, Republican lawmakers say the charges haven't gone far enough.
I'll be honest, getting Hunter Biden on the gun charge is like getting Jeffrey Dahmer on littering.
Frustrated that there has not been a subpoena issued yet for Hunter Biden?
No, I'm not frustrated at all. I'm excited we have an impeachment inquiry, and I want this to take a long time.
Hunter Biden likely committed several felonies, and Americans expect the Justice Department to apply the law equally, said Representative James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee. Today's charges are a very small part, but unless U.S. Attorney Weiss investigates everyone involved in fraud schemes and influence peddling, it will be clear President Biden's DOJ is protecting Hunter Biden and the big guy. With federal charges on the table and an impeachment inquiry being brought up by House Republicans, many are wondering how President Joe Biden will address his son's charges.
He's focused on delivering for the American people. That's true in terms of what he's trying to get done here at home, and it's definitely true in terms of what he's trying to deliver in the way of security at the UN General Assembly in supporting Ukraine and moving forward. So that's what he's focused on.
During a White House press briefing, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked whether Biden would pardon or commute his son if he was convicted.
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear and I said no.
Jean-Pierre also would not comment when asked whether President Biden had talked to his son since the indictment.
Yeah, there's nothing new here. As I've been asked that question many times, I'm not going to get into private conversations that the president has with his family. I'm just not going to speak to it.
To keep up with this story as it develops, read more at themessenger.com.